Hi, and welcome to this week's video blog on Some Assembly Required. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do with the kid who walks around with a chip on his shoulder. You know who I'm talking about. The 9-year-old who thinks the world is against him, who sees a slight in every gesture, who feels that all the chores or the tasks that you ask him to do you're only asking him and nobody else in the family, that they are put upon, that they are ignored, that everyone's against them. This is the type of child to whom everyone's complaining. He's always complaining about everyone being unfair to him. Generally this happens when the kid is 9, 10, 11. Sometimes it can happen when they're older. Sometimes teenagers have this feeling as well. It's almost as if they regress to a younger self and feel like the world is against him. And parents often don't know how to answer this. Partly because it's very frustrating to us, and partly because we're just not sure what to say. I mean, you can't. And so we make a few missteps when we try to help a child out of that. Here are a few things that you shouldn't do, and then I'm going to talk about a few things that you can do. So there are some definite positive steps we can take. First of all, don't try to reason a child out of this. Great replies when a child says something that is just totally not true, but that you can tell that the child really feels that it's true. Just say something short and sweet, like, well, if I were your age, I would feel that way too. Yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way. Yeah, I understand you don't like to take out the garbage, but you still need to do it. Those kind of small, quick, empathetic, yet not really feeding his angst statements can kind of help acknowledge that you've heard him, because sometimes that's all our kids want to know, is that we actually heard what they said, and can help them move on. Because the second point I want to make is, you make those little statements, is you don't want to overemphasize it. You don't want to sit a child down and say, well, you know, I measured those pie pieces. They were exactly alike. You got exactly the same weight of ice cream as your sister. It might not have looked that way, but it was exactly alike. So let's talk about it. See, I was being fair. Because when we try to explain ourselves to a child, whether it's about fairness, whether it's about comparison, no matter what it really is about, when the child comes to you and feels unfair, feels this unfair advantage, whether it's a habit or a one-off kind of a response, no amount of our explaining is going to make the child or the teen look at us and say, gee, Mom, when you put it that way, I understand why these slices of pie were exactly the same. No, they're not. They are in a place which makes them unable to hear, partly because they're upset and partly because of their age. They're not going to really understand what we mean in our explanations as adults until they are adults. So save your breath. Don't bother trying to over-explain that. You could say in one of your little phrases, yeah, I can see why you don't think that the pieces of pie were the same. You know, you can kind of acknowledge that maybe he has a point and he didn't understand that. The other thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to constantly feed into his need to tell you things, especially things that happen at school, things that you weren't there to see. You don't want your child who has fallen into this complaining, this unfairness kind of rut. You don't want him to come home from school and say, oh, it was so unfair, the teacher gave me all the work. You need those little throwaway lines then. Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. But you don't, and you may ask one simple follow, well, what happened that made you think that way? But you can quickly tell that even asking that question can lead the child down this path where they continually complain, and they just kind of heap on it, and they can kind of feed from your sympathy, your empathy for that, and make something that happened that should have been small to a much bigger deal. So you have to be very careful about trying to parse out what a child feels is unfair. So so those are kind of the cautionary and some things to do. But here are some options that we can take when our child says this. I also encourage parents, pick what you think what fits in your personality for this. I find I like to ignore things. I'm like, yeah, I see how you feel that way, and kind of walk away and ignore. That fits with how I like to parent. And I'm not going to, they know I'm not going to get sucked into it. It seems to work for us. There's also, you can designate a chair of complaining in your house. Make sure it's comfortable, have a timer nearby or on your phone. And when he gets to complain, and hold up your hand and say, wait a minute, let's go to the chair of complaining. You have 2 minutes. And you sit down, you set your timer for 2 minutes, and you're like, go, tell me your story. And then you just listen. You just listen and go, yeah, I can see how you feel that way. Those little encouraging sounds that when actually listen, the timer goes off, you go, okay, we're done. And just end it with something, sounds like you've had a tough time. Hopefully next time will be better. And then walk away. And you'll probably leave behind a very bewildered child who probably expected you to do something about his problem. So the chair of complaining, I find, is kind of a fun thing if you have that kind of personality as a parent and you want to listen to your child like that. Or you can designate, option number 3 is designate a complaining room. This is similar to my go-to advice for tantrums. Sometimes giving a kid a tantrum place is great. So you're not telling them not to have tantrums. You're just telling them to have them in a specific room. The room of complaining is the same type of thing. He needs to complain. You say, you know what? The downstairs bathroom is now your complaining room. Put up a sign if you need to. When he starts to complain, say, you go down, you can tell yourself that in the mirror in the bathroom downstairs. And then when he complains, he goes there. When she complains, she goes there. That way you're not saying don't complain. You're just saying here's a place to do it. And that's why it works for tantrums as well. It's because you're not saying don't have a tantrum. Have it down here. A quick side note for those of you with boys, and I guess probably some girls, but this is mostly a boy problem. When they hit that age, and they want to use all that potty talk because they think it's funny. And let's face it, sometimes when they say it, it is kind of funny. But you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it at the dinner table. Have them go to the bathroom and do it. Tell them that you can use all those words all you want to in the bathroom. Let me tell you, this is one of the best ways to cut down on hearing potty talk around your house. I've done it with my boys, and it was really funny because they would come running in from wherever they were in the house, go in our hall bath, slam the door, and I would hear them shouting at the top of their lungs those potty words. Sure, I could still hear them. That it wasn't, but they were doing it in their room, and it stopped them doing it elsewhere. So, little side note, use that. It's great. So back to the complaining, the kid with the chip on his shoulder. We have to understand that we're not going to change their minds. What we want to do is we want to help them learn how to control themselves. So ignoring it helps because when you're complaining and nobody's listening, it's not really a lot of fun. The chair of complaining is good because you have a timer, it's a short time, and you're done. The complaining room is good because, again, the child can go there and complain by himself. Our children are more than capable of figuring out how to stop complaining. Our job is to make it more of a give them a little push to make that choice themselves. Thank you for joining me for this week's video blog on kids with chips on their shoulders. I hope you'll join me next week for another video blog. Thank you.